So again, welcome to my Blood Sugar Mastery class. We're going to talk about why blood sugar is important and how your blood sugar might be impacting you. So you're going to learn why maintaining a balanced blood sugar is important for your overall health and well-being, and how it can improve your mood, boost your energy, and your vitality, okay? But before we go on, there's something that I really want to share with you that so many people don't realize, is that you really don't have to have insulin resistance, be pre-diabetic, or have diabetes to ride any kind of blood sugar roller coaster. And I'm going to show you this as we go through this presentation, okay? I have somebody that I had worked with, I have some of their data, and I also am going to share some of my experience as well. So it should be fun. If you guys have questions, make sure that you write them down. I will ask at the end if there is any questions that anybody might have. No question is a stupid question. All questions are valid. Ask them. You never know who else might have the same question. Okay. So in today's class, I am going to share with you the solution to combat some of these struggles that you might be experiencing. Poor mood, focus, concentration, low energy, food cravings, PMS, insomnia, fatigue, unwanted weight, headaches. There are so many different things that blood sugar impacts, and you might be completely surprised. So what is blood sugar? Many people don't know what that means. And honestly, I was somebody who, I didn't know what blood sugar was. I didn't have a reason to, right? Nor do many other people, because, you know, we just don't understand the relationship between our overall wellness and blood sugar unless we are diagnosed with insulin resistance, type 1, type 2 diabetes, or pre-diabetes, right? So blood sugar is the amount of glucose that sits in the bloodstream at any given time. So typically we all have a little bit of sugar that sits in the blood, okay? Because that glucose is what is fueling our brain, unless we are in a ketogenic state, okay, where ketones would be fueling the brain. But again, that is a presentation for another day, but just so that it gives you a little bit of insight. So what happens is that when food enters the mouth, it mixes with the saliva that we have in our mouth, and it starts the carbohydrate digestion. When the carbohydrates begin to start breaking down, it turns into glucose, okay? And they head for the bloodstream to get transported to the proper organs and cells where they're going to be put to use for energy. So it does not matter what kind of carbohydrate or what the carbohydrate is that you are consuming, it is still going to break down into glucose. Okay, so all carbohydrates break down into sugar. So for those people who don't know, glucose is sugar. Okay, so it's actual sugar in the blood, or glucose in the blood. Okay, so that's how carbohydrates start to break down into the body. This is when the glucose starts to enter the bloodstream. So a little bit on carbohydrates. So they're in a variety of different foods, all right? There is a number of different foods that contain carbohydrates, almost all, really. Vegetables, fruit, sweets, rice, bread, pastas, cakes, cookies, all of those things, ice cream, yogurt, all of those things contain carbohydrates, okay? However, how fast each of those enter the bloodstream determines really, it really determines the rate in which the blood sugar elevates, okay? Carbohydrates are not created equal. And this is what people tend to not quite understand. A carbohydrate is not a carbohydrate is not a carbohydrate, okay? There are carbohydrates that are mixed with protein. Sometimes there's fat in there, sometimes there is fiber in there. And when you have all of those, it is going to digest at different rates, okay? You can't really say either that all carbohydrates are bad, because they're not. They're not all bad for us. You can get some really great benefits from carbohydrates, okay? It's really a matter of knowing which ones those are. It's also really about knowing which ones work for you and which ones don't, okay? Because our bodies are so completely different in how we digest and how we metabolize that carbohydrate or any of our food as far as that goes. Let's talk a little bit about insulin. Insulin is the hormone that is produced from the pancreas that controls the amount of glucose that's in the bloodstream at any given time, okay? So as the carbohydrate digestion starts, all right, as that begins, the pancreas then shoots off insulin to turn the glucose into energy, okay? So you have the glucose sitting in the bloodstream. The pancreas has to then do its job by producing enough insulin to take the blood sugar, the sugar in the blood, and bring it, transport it to the right cells, okay? So the muscles, different cells within the body. Any leftover sugar that's in the blood or any leftover glucose that is not needed for energy, it gets transported from the blood and stored in the muscles and the liver. So insulin is really the important hormone that metabolizes our fats, our proteins, and our carbohydrates as we digest them as they enter into the body. Let's talk about focus and concentration, okay? Keeping an even blood sugar level is extremely, extremely critical to intelligence, because this affects the ability to concentrate over long periods of time. Dips in blood sugar not only lower the concentration levels, all right, and it disrupts our focus, but it also increases aggressive behavior. A lot of people don't realize that, which we'll get into very, very shortly. And this is why, one of the reasons why it's extremely important to keep a good balanced blood sugar for that focus and concentration, okay? Otherwise, we get really sidetracked very, very easily. We can't stay focused. We can't concentrate on one task. It just, we kind of become all over the place. It just becomes very, very difficult and very much of a struggle. Our mood, all right? Check this out. So riding a blood sugar roller coaster will cause fluctuations in mood, totally. 1 minute, you might feel really happy, while the next minute, you might feel really sad, anxious, and or irritable, which is totally my story, okay? Since the brain runs on glucose as the primary energy source, this makes total sense. So a little bit here, okay, you can see that this is actually a picture of my blood sugar reading. You can see that I had a pretty stable blood sugar and then I started to have a slight increase. Here's what happens with me based on my own experience, okay, with different types of carbohydrates that I was consuming and different meals and how they were put together. So for me, when I started to, you can see this little arrow right here, that gives you an indication that there is a slight raise happening in blood sugar. So you can also see that it's, you know, pretty steady, and then you start to see that sudden rise. So this was a meal that I had had. My family and I were out to dinner. Everybody had ordered. I don't remember what we were celebrating, but we were celebrating something. We were in a restaurant. I remember my meal to a T, and I remember exactly what I did that evening. So We were out to dinner. I ordered myself some French onion soup, which this was in a restaurant. So I suspect that this was not a homemade based broth. I suspect this was probably a chemically based broth, right? What I mean by chemically based is this was probably a broth that was bought in a box in a can that came pre-made. That is my assumption. When we use boxed and canned foods, it is really, really important for you to look at your ingredients. Now, I can't do that because I'm out in a restaurant. I guess I could have asked the waitress for that information, but I didn't because we were out celebrating. And I don't have any severe, food allergies. I do have sensitivities, but I don't have any severe food allergies that I really had to watch out for. So I ordered the French onion soup. Okay, so it came, it was a bowl, about this big. Of course, it was onions in there in a nice broth. And then there was some bread or croutons sprinkled with mozzarella cheese. So that was my meal. So that was fine. I ate my meal. I felt pretty satiated. Then we left. We went off to the movies. Okay, so we were at the movie theater. I hadn't had any, I didn't have any popcorn. I didn't have any treats or anything while I was there. I did have a bottle of water, but that was it. And then it was shortly after, so I want to say it was about an hour to an hour and a half after I had had the meal. So this was right after, like this is pretty much right as I'm eating the meal. I should have taken a picture of all of it so that you could have saw when I was out at the movies what was happening. So I felt fine. We got to the movies about an hour and a half later. During the movie, I wish I could remember even the title of the movie so that would have given you an idea, but it wasn't, it wasn't any kind of scary movie or anything like that. Suspenseful, but that was about it. So I was sitting next to my husband and I started to feel all of this anxiety within my chest. I'm like, what? Why is this happening? Why am I struggling with all of this anxiety? It's, nothing's happening. My family's here with me. Why do I have these symptoms? The movie is not, it's not scary. It's not jumpful, frightful or anything like that. Not at this time, not up until this point. But I was just having all these symptoms. And so I looked over at my husband and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like full of anxiety, like what the heck? And so I looked at my monitor. Now you can see that there's a slight rise, during my meal. So I ate right around here and you could see, it started to rise up. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look at my CGM, which is my continuous blood glucose monitoring system, to see what's happening right now. Why am I having all these anxiety symptoms? And I really didn't know at first. And so I took out my CGM and I had a look, I scanned it, and I was pushing 8.8, I believe is what it was at that time. And so I thought, well, my goodness, this has happened on multiple occasions where I was getting these anxiety symptoms, but then I would also get these crashes in energy. Like I was just so extremely, extremely tired and fatigued. And so what was happening at them times when I was experiencing these symptoms is that I was experiencing a rise in blood sugar, and it was really sucking the energy out of me, and it was causing me to have these anxiety symptoms, which totally makes sense because when we have large amounts of sugar in the blood, or when we have spikes in blood sugar, what can happen is that it can also raise our cortisol levels, right? Our stress levels. And so for me, that is what was happening. I was experiencing these symptoms from the increase in blood sugar, from the rise in blood sugar. Mood and behavior, check this out. So this I find I love this because it speaks for itself. So in one study that was conducted in a US prison, 3,000 inmates were placed on an experimental diet, which reduced refined foods and sugary foods, okay? So look at what was reported, okay? This was only an experimental diet. So they only cut out some of those refined and sugary foods. A 21% reduction in antisocial behavior, 25% reduction in all assaults, a 75% reduction in the use of restraints, and 100% reduction in suicide. That in itself speaks 1,000 words. So does blood sugar fluctuations interfere with mood and behavior and energy? Absolutely. Maintaining a balanced blood sugar is essential for positive mood and behavior and mental health. Extremely, extremely, extremely important. And remember, again, you don't need to have diabetes to experience these symptoms. My blood sugars are fine. I've not had any kind of blood sugar issues, okay, from labs or anything like that. And here I was fluctuating, you know, riding this blood sugar roller coaster and experiencing all of these different types of symptoms with rises and drops, which I'll get into as we go on. Let's talk about weight for a minute. Here is another one that people really don't understand. But one of the main reasons that diets, which I really don't like to use the word diet, because I don't believe in going on a diet. I believe in a balance, and I believe in eating a healthy and balanced diet, as in every day, okay, not going on a diet. But one of the main reasons why diets fail is because of the lack of blood sugar control. And a lot of people don't realize this. When we have high levels of insulin floating in the bloodstream, trying to move the glucose from the blood to the cells, the body gets stuck in sugar burning mode. And when that happens, it can't burn fat because it can only do one or the other. It can't do both at the same time. And the very first thing that it's going to do is burn the sugar before it starts burning the fat. So what happens is that it ends up storing any of the excess, anything extra that we have that it can't use for energy because it's used what it needed for energy. It ends up storing as fat. More people believe that eating too many calories is what causes weight gains. And yeah, calories are sort of important, but not really, because it is really what makes up the calorie rather than what it is, okay? Or sorry, rather than the actual calorie. So it's what makes it up rather than what an actual calorie is. We talked briefly about energy, but here's the other thing. So I was totally the energy depleted queen back in the day. No kidding. That is 100% truth. Eating all the things to keep my energy levels up, to only find myself in a great big slump all over again. Okay. Here's why. Because when meals are not balanced and they're extremely, extremely carb heavy, the blood sugar levels surge. As that blood sugar level increases, so does the amount of insulin that the pancreas produces. So this is what I talked about earlier. Insulin is working hard to bring the blood sugar levels down. However, it can also overcompensate. And this is another thing that happened to me when I was, so if you followed any of my live videos that I did when I was experimenting with myself, you'll know that I kind of had put it out there. What is it that you guys would like to see me eat to see how that affects my blood sugar? And so you may recall that I was asked to eat some mini eggs, have some wine, and to eat some potato chips. I did not eat them all together, just so you know, otherwise I really would not have been well. I would have just felt horrible. So when I ate the mini eggs, so I had some mini eggs. My husband and I went on a little hike. During the hike, which would have been about 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes after I had eaten the mini eggs, we went on this hike. My blood sugar had dropped down into to unsafe levels. So I was down in the early threes, so 3.2, 3.3. This is what happened to me, okay? Why? Because the body's overcompensated for the insulin for the mini eggs, okay, by giving me too much insulin to cover those mini eggs, to move that. And what is the result of that? It's the overcompensation, which is then could be, is a dip in blood sugar or an episode of hypoglycemia. So when that happens, the end result is not only is do you have perhaps this hyperglycemic episode, but you're also going to feel hungry and you're going to get these energy dips. You're going to have those hangry feelings. That's what that word means. Hangry usually means you're hungry and you're angry, and feeling really cranky and frustrated all at one time. So this is where hangry came from, okay? It's a dip in blood sugar, and then you need to eat. You are looking for food or for something to kind of relieve that symptom. And then when that happens, it just becomes a repetitious cycle where you're going to be looking for sugary liquids or treats or snacks or coffee or energy drinks or something like that to help boost your energy back up. And that's not what we want, right? We don't want the dips in blood sugar like that. We want a nice stable blood sugar, and we want to feel satiated after our meals. Sleep. So what about it? What about blood sugar and sleep? This is also another very interesting point, okay? We all understand the importance of sleep and what it does for our body, okay? But let's consider that in relation to blood sugar. What does that mean? So what happens is poor sleep can cause cells to become insulin resistant, okay? And it impairs, insulin sensitivity, which is not what we want. This is when the cells in your muscles, fat and liver, do not respond well to the insulin, okay? So you've heard of insulin resistance. There has been studies, all right, where they have taken a number of different healthy men and they broke them up into groups. And so they had some sleep a good 8 to 9 hours, and then they had others sleep from 3 to 5 hours a night, okay? What they found was those people who were sleep deprived and getting only 3 to 5 hours of sleep per night were actually coming up pre-diabetic within only a 2-week period. So that is how quickly your body can become insulin resistant. So if you want to become type 2 very quickly or become very insulin resistant, which I can't imagine why anybody would want to do that, then all you have to do is deprive yourself from sleep. Okay, so it's extremely important for your metabolism as well as the regular healing that it does, your body does, healing and repairing while you're asleep. So a night of poor sleep or missed sleep can make one as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic. The effects of sleep deprivation on insulin sensitivity and glucose intolerance, glucose tolerance are nearly immediate. So this right here is a case study. This is a case study of one of the ladies that I had worked with, okay? So just a little bit of background. So Sally has had no diagnosed blood sugar issues. She doesn't sleep well, okay? And she does not feel rested in the morning. She has high levels of inflammation in the body as determined by blood labs and was diagnosed with fibro and autoimmune, okay? So autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis is what she was diagnosed with. Sally has been experiencing paralysis of the face, pain, and chronic fatigue to the point where she could not get out of bed. She sometimes would spend a good portion of her day, if not all day, in bed because she was so extremely fatigued. Other than the above noted, which I've just shared with you, there was nothing else that was flagged in her labs. So nothing else at all. She had been back and forth to the doctor. She had seen multiple specialists who wanted to prescribe her antidepressants. And they suggested that she was experiencing depression. So on top of those few things that I had mentioned, the rheumatoid arthritis, okay, and fibro and inflammation, which would totally make sense with fibro and arthritis because that is inflammation in the body, right? So other than those things, there was nothing that they could find. So they diagnosed her with depression. And she said, I am not depressed. I don't feel good. But that was their solution. So she and I worked together, and what we discovered together was that she was experiencing multiple hypoglycemic episodes. And if you look down here, this is actually her this is her chart. So you can see all of those reds are low blood sugars, okay? And you can see that she dropped down below 3, okay, on a couple of those, which is extremely, extremely dangerous, right? So we discovered this through our work together and through the use of the CGM within my blood sugar program. So it didn't matter how well balanced even her blood sugar, or sorry, how well balanced her meal was before she went to bed even. So for example, she had some sweet potatoes, some salmon, and some green beans before bed this evening, okay? This is what happened. This right here is what happened. This was a result of that. So what was happening is that we found she was extremely, extremely sensitive to many types of carbohydrates, whether they be those good, healthy carbohydrates or not. And so this is a very good example of how our bodies are so completely different in how they metabolize different foods. So even those healthiest, the healthiest of the healthy food, okay, so apples, sweet potatoes, they for her did not work well, even if they were paired with fiber, fat, and protein, which is something that I tell my people to do because I think it's extremely important. But for her, she was extremely sensitive regardless of that. what else was happening is that we figured together that her hypos were lasting for hours. She was experiencing paralysis of the face. And again, there was no diagnosis that would explain this. And so now, after working with her closely, she's able to take this information that we have figured out together to her doctor and is able to talk about that with them, because what we're thinking together is that she's experiencing these hypos for long periods of time, and now she's getting the symptoms of a hypoglycemic episode, right? And there's a number of different types. So you could feel faint, you could actually pass out, there's coma, there is shaky legs, blurred vision, cold sweats, paralysis, aggression, hallucinations, whether that be audio or visual. There's so many different things. And so she's able to take this information, and we are also able to work together to create a nutrition plan specifically for what her body needs. Okay, so what is healthy for me might not be healthy for you, because we are so very, very different in our biological makeup. So you hear of the Canada's Food Guide, for example, okay? It is only a guide. Just because something is on that guide does not mean that it is going to do well with your biological makeup. Insomnia. So if you struggle with insomnia, it could be that you are also experiencing blood sugar drops through the night. Okay, so here's another one. I was sleeping one evening. My kids had asked me if we could do family movie night in our living room. I said, absolutely. They drug out mattresses. They both slept on the floor with their own sleeping bags. They're in the living room, watched a movie. I slept on the couch. I don't always sleep the greatest on the couch, but because they had requested it, I thought, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So all night long that night, so when I say I don't sleep well, this isn't the reason I don't sleep well. On the couch, I just wake up frequently. But when that evening, I was waking up to these really crazy, scary dreams. And every time I would close my eyes, and I mean, when I say waking up, I'm talking like every hour. I had multiple wake ups that night. I was exhausted the next day because there was so many, and they were the dreams. So I was dreaming, and they were so vivid and so real and so scary. And every time I closed my eyes, it was a different one, but it would still wake me up, and I would be extremely afraid. And it would take a bit to get back to bed. When I got up in the morning and looked at my recording, or my record, I had 5 or 6 drops in blood sugar to down in the low 3s in the night. And I know that was what was happening, is that each time I was waking up, it was because I was struggling with a low blood sugar, and I had no idea that that was happening. Okay. And if you look here, as the blood sugar plummets, we actually start to wake up. And this might happen several times throughout the night, which is setting the stage for the next day of cravings, hunger, and crazy insulin resistance. And this is exactly my experience. This is exactly what happened to me. So it definitely can affect your sleep. And again, if you're struggling with insomnia, you might want to consider blood sugar issues. So let's talk blood sugar and immune health. Okay, so how does blood sugar relate to your immune system? Raised blood sugar levels is a huge contributor to chronic disease. All right. It causes inflammation in the body, it damages your blood vessels, and it really has a negative impact on all of your vital organs, okay? Which then leaves you wide open for a range of different ailments and illnesses and diseases, okay? So sugar, if you have high levels of sugar in the blood, glucose in the blood, you are feeding illness and disease, because lots of times that is actually its food. So it allows it to grow, just like, you know, our babies need, and so do we, I guess not as adults, but you know, as our kids grow, they need certain nutrients and vitamins and minerals and all of those things to grow. As do some of these viruses and bacteria. This becomes the food for it. So if you have high levels of blood or high levels of sugar in the blood, you're actually feeding that, okay? So that is going to lower that immune system. When you keep your blood sugars balanced, you're reducing that amount of insulin that's floating around in the body, which then allows the body to start healing. So staying off that blood sugar roller coaster will really help to make you less susceptible to viruses and ailments that are directly, you know, caused even by poorly controlled blood sugar, and will boost that overall immunity. So there is a huge relationship between immune and blood sugar balance. Keeping that insulin in the body lower, right? So definitely a huge relationship. So let's talk about the tools. I have to also look, yeah, okay, there's a new share there. All right, so let's talk about the tools. I've mentioned this a few times throughout the presentation. What is a continuous blood glucose monitoring system? You've heard me say CGM, you've heard me say continuous glucose monitoring system. Let me tell you a little bit about what it is, all right? It is so CGM is short for that, but it's a compact medical system, all right, that is used to continuously monitor your glucose levels in real time, which is super awesome, okay? There's usually 5 minutes, like a 5-minute interval, like in between readings, but it sits so I point to the arm because that is where I wore mine, and we have been using a CGM with my daughter now for the last 5 years-ish, give or take. And so that tends to be her favorite place to put that as well, is in her arm. But it could be placed on your belly, your back, your arm, your leg, anywhere really that there's a little bit of fat tissue there. So how is it used? It's a small, you take a sensor, a small sensor, and insert that into your belly or your arm with a tiny plastic tube that is called a cannula, okay? This penetrates the top layer of skin. So just this top layer. And then it's held in place by a sticky patch that holds it holds it there, right? Holds it in that spot, and it sits in the interstitial fluid. So that interstitial fluid is the fluid that surrounds the cells in the body. And this is where it takes glucose readings in real time, 24 hours a day. It is an absolute amazing device, okay? One sensor lasts between 10 and 14 days, and then it has to be replaced. So it depends on the type of CGM that you're using as to how long that's going to last, all right? So there is a small reusable transmitter that attaches to the sensor, and that then sends the data to a smartphone. You can get like a dedicated little monitor that goes along with the sensor. You do, but you can also, if you can also transmit that data to a smartphone if you have a smartphone. For those people who need or prefer notifications of low blood sugar, CGMs are equipped for that, okay? Specifically for those people who have diabetes and are insulin dependent, or those who struggle with hypoglycemia. So you can set an alarm that's going to go off to tell you that you are trending low, because it also predicts, it will give you a little bit of a prediction ahead of time to let you know that it's coming. Okay, so you can treat that before you get into a full-blown hypoglycemic episode. Using a CGM as a tool to optimize your health and well-being provides you with real-time biofeedback insights. I'm telling you, it is like one of the most amazing devices out there to really help you to transform your diet and lifestyle for optimum wellness, really. And these that are here listed on the screen are these are only a few of the amazing benefits to having stable blood glucose levels. So increased energy, improved mood, natural weight loss. That's right, natural weight loss. Without even really trying, okay, people can experience weight loss. You're going to have restful sleep, mental clarity, increased focus, and concentration. To name, these are only a few. Like, your PMS symptoms may start to go away. You may find that you have less migraines, less headaches. Maybe you have more patience with your children or your family or whatever. It is just an amazing, amazing device that will give you real time biofeedback of your own, like your own right then and there. It's an amazing, amazing device. So putting it all into perspective, so I have created the Blood Sugar Mastery program, and I have called it Level Up because that's exactly what it does. It helps to level up your wellness and your overall health. It's a 3-month program. It includes the use of the CGM, or the continuous blood glucose monitoring system. And over the course of 3 months, we work together to customize your diet and your lifestyle through this awesome, awesome technology, your smartphone, health data, and other nutritional logs. This is what it looks like. This is the program outline so that you can understand what's entailed. And I'm going to share my screen in a few minutes as well, to show you a little more in depth, but this is what is going to be happening over this 10 to 12 week program. Okay. First couple of weeks, we're going to introduce you to the program, get the CGM on your body, get you used to using it. You're going to download the app and just make it part of your everyday. Okay. You're going to learn how to scan it, just kind of bring it into that routine so that you get used to using it. You're not going to change anything within those first couple of weeks. It's just a matter of getting comfortable, right? Weeks 3 through 5, this is the adjustment and reset phase, right? So I'm going to put you through a program where we reset that body. It's like pressing the reset button on some type of an electronic device if it's not working, or clicking the reset button I don't know, on the computer, whatever it is, because this is exactly what it's going to do. All right. So, and we're going to adjust a number of different things in the body as well, in terms of nutrition and so on. Weeks 6 through 8, we're going to do some carb testing and make some adaptations. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, not all carbs are created equal, but how they metabolize in the body also are not equal from individual to individual. So we need to carb test. We need to understand the impact of the kind or type of carbohydrate and how that's affecting your body and your blood sugar. We're going to look at interpretation. We're going to develop the individualized nutrition plan and have you follow that during weeks 9 and 10. And then we're going to move on to weeks 10 and 12 with adaptation and maintenance. And we're going to do some lifestyle recommendations as well. So there's lots of different things that are included in that program. Lots of different changes that we're going to make so that you can have that energy and that vitality that you're looking for, and maybe that weight loss that you're looking for as well. Okay. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing program. So let's talk a little bit about costs. Now I'm going to do a new share. Let's see. So this is the Level Up program. This is what I want to share with you. Okay, so let's talk costs for a minute. This is really your own portable healthcare system. I'm telling you, it is an amazing device that goes along with this program. Absolutely amazing. So as I mentioned earlier, this is what happens when you go through this program. All right, when you have controlled glucose levels and you're no longer riding a blood sugar roller coaster, okay, you're going to start to experience things such as, I said already, energy, mood, okay, increase in those, decrease in anxiety symptoms. So if you struggle with anxiety, it very well could be related to blood sugar imbalance, okay? Better sleep, reduction in PMS, glowing skin, boosted immune, less to no cravings. That is a true story as well. When you have a balanced blood sugar, lots of times those cravings disappear. Decreased inflammation, diminished aches and pains, increased focus and concentration, vanished brain fog, improved gut health. You guys, I'm telling you, tons. And guess what? Even an increase could help to increase your libido. So that, that could be bonus for some of you. We'll talk a little bit about the phases. All right. So as I mentioned before, it's weeks 1 right through week 12. All right, so you got the awareness phase, the reboot phase, and the customization phase. And that's where we work closely together. We're going to meet weekly to get through this program via Zoom or phone, whichever you prefer. And we're going to develop a program specific to the needs of your body. So let's break it down. You're going to get the initial consultation. Okay, so this is a 60-minute in-depth one-on-one discovery call, which is past and present history. All right, we're going to look at your nutrition and lifestyle goals and gather different kinds of information, even on your spiritual and emotional health. And this gives me a really good understanding of nutritional needs and assesses your full body systems as well. I'm going to put you through a guided full body reset, which is a 10-day reset where I walk you through step-by-step process of eliminating toxins from the body. Okay, yes, we all have toxins, every single one of us. So we work through that. Although the body has its own detoxification system, it really is up to us to support it by gently cleansing and resetting our digestive system, nurturing our organs, and flooding the body with superfoods. And that's exactly what we do. So you can see the initial consult is a value of $110. You can see that the guided full body reset is also a value of $125. Then we move on to the in-depth individual coaching and support. Okay, so this is where I said we meet every week. We'll set up times to meet for assessments, follow-up, and individual coaching. We'll be working I'll be working with you to monitor where you're at, with your own health, assist you in making different changes that you need or when they're needed. And you'll have access to me as well via email as often as you like. in addition to 12 30 to 60-minute one-on-one calls. And again, I said that's via Zoom or Skype or phone, whichever you prefer. And this is a value of $1,064 when you look at that over a 3-month period, at 12 different sessions, okay? That really are going to vary in time between 30 and 60 minutes. Sometimes it might even be longer for individuals. Then you get into the individualized wellness plan, which, you know, this is where it covers all the other pillars of health that might include stress, sleep, fitness, whatever it is. And that's when I'll help to create that plan that works specifically for you and what your needs are. And that is a value of $150. Then we'll get into that personalized nutrition plan and data interpretation. This is where you will be providing me with your data, and we'll be keeping a detailed food diary, where then I will create a personalized nutrition plan specific to your own biology. Okay, so we'll work together to do some carb testing. That's what I had talked about earlier, while considering the blood sugar fluctuations, and provide you with a unique food list and recipes that will allow you to thrive. Okay, because I'm not going to leave you high and dry to kind of figure things out yourself. That is a value, okay, of $360. And for those people who are local, there is also going to be an opportunity. It is optional, but I'm putting it in there, of a 1-hour grocery tour where I will meet you right in the grocery store. I'll teach you how to kind of shop, look at different labels and marketing strategies, help you to be able to just comprehend some of those ingredients and things, and help you to make some healthy choices and get you on track for meal planning. Okay, so that is a value of $75. All right, so it is all of these things that I have included into this program, but it's not what you see the value is really not what you're going to pay. The total value you can see is $1,884. All right, but that is not the price of my program. I have just included all of those things into that program. So let's talk about the continuous blood glucose monitoring system. You're going to have 2 different choices. All right. You need this for this program. So this is a program that you will need the CGM for. Okay. The CGMs are covered by most insurance companies, but you have to have a prescription from a medical doctor in order to have it covered. Okay, so the price of the CGM is not included in the price of my program. But again, if you talk with your family physician and they give the prescription for that, then you may be able to have all of that covered. So for example, for us, my daughter has a prescription from the family doctor, and we have not had to pay for the use of her CGM because our medical will cover that. So if you have medical, you need to look into your medical to find out if your medical covers the use of a continuous blood glucose monitoring system, and let your family doctor know, or the medical doctor that you're working with know, that you will be working with a licensed professional, okay, a licensed holistic nutrition practitioner to go through this program to improve your overall health and well-being. And that's a CGM is needed to do that. Okay, so you're going to have 2 different choices. Dexcom is a wonderful device. This device can actually only be purchased online or by phone. This is my personal favorite. So I'm actually on my website right now. So if you go to my website and click here, you'll be able to read a lot more about Dexcom. This is my favorite for those people who do have diabetes and are on blood sugar lowering medications. All right. However, for this program, to go through this program, and if you are not on any kind of blood sugar lowering medications, don't have diabetes or whatever, then you may want to look at the Freestyle Libre. And the reason is this device can be purchased directly from any kind of pharmacy, okay, for most pharmacies, or it can be ordered online or over the phone. I really like the convenience of being able to go to the grocery store, or sorry, go to the pharmacy local and just pick up as needed. Okay, if you click here, you're going to find out more information. It is lower in cost. All right, so the Dexcom, you are looking at $299 a month for 3 months. So we'll say $300 a month for 3 months, unless it's covered by medical. With the Freestyle, you are actually only looking, I think, at about $220-ish, give or take, to use the Freestyle Libre. Okay, so there is a different, there's different costs for both. Ultimately, the choice is completely up to you. And I've also included, like, you can go on and you can have a look at this, you can compare, you can, see the difference between the two. Okay, so the costs I just went over with you. As I said, you're going to have the two different to choose from. I had also mentioned earlier, Dexcom's been a part of our life. CGM's been part of our life for, I said 5 years, but you know what? It is 6, so my bad for that. And so is my personal favorite, but honestly, you can use either one. It's whichever you prefer. So do check those things out, okay? Program and what is covered. I went over the medical coverage. All right, my services, some medicals will cover through the healthcare spending account. So if you have a healthcare spending account on your medical, it can cover some or all of your costs. So you really need to check with your medical to see if you have a healthcare spending account and if my services are covered. Okay, if not, you might want to save your receipts for tax time, because sometimes you can include those with your medical costs at the end of the year. Okay, so that's a wrap. That brings us to the very end of my PowerPoint. So I'm just going to stop the share there. All right, here we go. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask away. I'm happy to answer those. You know that you can always send me an email as well. You can also check out my website at www.helenpaquette.com. Oh, and I almost forgot. So for those people who have stuck around for all of this presentation, I am actually offering my Level Up program at a discount of 50%. So instead of paying $9.99, you are actually going to only pay half of that, okay? Half of $9.99 is what your cost is going to be, as long as you shoot me an email and let me know that you stayed to the end and you got that discount, all right? Which is a steal for everything that you're getting within this program. All right, so for those people who are just getting started, head over to my website and download your free copy of my Busy Person's Guide to Mastering Blood Sugar, Energy, Mood, and Vitality by subscribing to my website. Okay, that's an absolute free guide. All right, we'll see you. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.